Welcome everybody to another episode of Terrain Studio. I'm your host, Shawn Morris. Today in the Terrain Studio, I thought it'd be interesting to have a continued look at the Flames of War Forces book. Last evening I put up an update and several people had commented that they did find that somewhat helpful, and I thought I would go in and have a little more in-depth look. I kind of gave it a speedy look over last night, but I thought maybe I'll go in and focus specifically on choosing your HQ and selecting the mandatory combat platoons. A lot of people have a little bit of difficulty reading the forces chart for the first time. They are pretty simplistic, but when you get into some of the more in-depth lists, the options can get a bit overwhelming, and it's a little complicated to know exactly what you can and cannot take. And I understand that too, especially when you go to purchase your units. You don't want to order things that you can't use. Likewise, you do want to make sure that you're ordering the mandatory units and platoons for your force. So I did have a viewer comment that they were building a Russian force, so I thought maybe it'd be prevalent if we had a look tonight at the Tankovy Battalion. So I will preface this by saying that I do not play a lot of Russians, but I did previously have a Russian army, so I can speak a little bit about the units that you may want to include. So the Tankovy Battalion right here is a tank battalion. Also tells you right here it's a tank company. Russians use the company where it says platoon. You can kind of interchange company and platoon. This unit here is confident trained. This right here is your motivation rating. This right here is your skill rating. Mainly this means that your guys are middle of the road in both categories. It means you're motivating, getting back in your tanks, platoon morale checks and such on a 4, confident. Here means your skill rating, which means you're trained, which means the enemy is going to be hitting you needing 3s. So you're a little easier to hit, although you do end up paying less points for your tanks, and therefore your numbers are increased. So it's a little bit of quantity over quality in this respect. When it comes to looking at the force organization chart, the real areas of concern are the blackened areas. So you have here your HQ, and here you have 2 platoons. These are the only mandatory requirements to make this army. So if we have a look at the HQ here, maybe I'll zoom in a little bit. There we go. The HQ for this army can be one of 2 options. You can pay 55 points to have a T-34 1942 variant, or 80 points for a T-34 85 1943 variant. On top of that, you may upgrade your tank to have a cupola, and also you can add a tank escort for 10 points. These 2 add-ons are in addition to either this point value or this point value. So this takes care of your HQ option. And because there's no number here, it is 1 tank. So if you're looking at this list, you either need to purchase a T-34 or a T-34 85, depending on which option you go with. Sliding over to the mandatory tank companies, you're going to see that this is available. The information, is on page 79. As well, this one's on 79. What this means is that you must take 1 tank platoon from 79 and a 2nd platoon from page 79. So if we slide over here to page 79, apologize for the glare, I'm just going to back out a little bit here. Here is page 79. Here are the tanks in that on that page. So these are the platoons. Now, up here at the top, at the point value chart, you're going to notice that you have several options. You can take 5 tanks for 275, 6 tanks for 320, 7 for 355, 8, 9, or 10 tanks. This is up to you. Because this is a mandatory platoon, you must take the minimum of 5 tanks. Likewise, for your 2nd platoon, you must take the minimum of 5 tanks. But that does not say that you can't have 10 tanks in one platoon and 5 in another, or 8 and 8, or 7 and 7. It's your choice, as long as you do take 2 platoons, of which they must include the minimum number. So this tank here is a T-34 1942, and if you remember back to the HQ option, that was one of the HQ tanks. There is no option here to take T-34 85s. However, if you look down here in the subtext, you may replace 5 T-34 1942 tanks to the T-34 85. Which again was an option in the HQ. By doing that, you're adding 25 points per tank. So let's say, for example, you took the 1st platoon was 5 T-34s at 275, you would take those 5 tanks and fill, sorry for the sliding, one of these tank slots. So this would be taken care of. Your second tank slot could also be filled by 5 T-34-85s, and you may choose to upgrade up to 5 of them. So say you wanted to upgrade all 5, okay? If you did so, you would add 25 points per tank, which means you'd add a total of 125, bringing this platoon total to 400. If you upgrade all T-34 1942 tanks and the T-34-85 tanks, you may upgrade all of them to have cupolas for 10 points for the company. So that means that if you have 10 tanks and you want to add cupolas, it is 10 points for all. If you have 5 and you want to add cupolas, then it's 10 points for all. So it's not 10 points per tank, it's 10 points for the entire company. And as you can see, this is labeled as a company, not a platoon. Finally, you may mount tank escorts on all tanks for 10 points per tank. So that again is an added cost to here. So these are kind of your, well, labeled as options. So these are your kind of your upgrades for your tanks. So when you're doing your point values, this is your base cost, and then you need to take into account all of your upgrades that you're taking. So let's just say, for example, we went with what we said, 275 and 400 because we upgraded. So now we're at 675. And let's say for simplicity's sake, we went with, let's say the T-34-85 here. So 675, and let's say that we wanted to add the cupolas over here, so we're at 685. We wanted to go with the cupola here, so 690, and then we're going to add the 80 points for the actual tank, so we're at 770 if the math serves correct. Sound about right? I could be a few points off there, just kind of doing it off the top of my head. So yeah, so that's what we're at for our base value. So we're right around the 800 point value, and what we've done at this point is we've satisfied our HQ option, we've satisfied our 2 mandatory tank slots. Just going to back this up a little bit. Now, all of the other grade-in areas is what we'll focus on in the next video, give people kind of a chance to check out what we're looking at here. All of the rest are options for you to take. Obviously, you can't get all the options in the 1750 list, but certainly anything that you want to take. So you got to kind of satisfy what suits your flavor of playstyle. So these are mandatory, you can't do much about that. But then you can say, do I want to take a light tank company? Do I want to add some mortars? Would I like some anti-tank guns? Do I want some heavy anti-tank weapons? Do I want some assault guns? Do I want some infantry, rockets, anything like that? That is totally up to you. It's an option, and we'll discuss the options in the next video. So hopefully that gives you guys some food for thought, and you guys can get back to looking at your books and kind of coming up with some questions and coming up with some organizations. So till next time, cheers, thanks for watching.